So now we've talked about how to sort of clear out the old stuff. Let's talk about how to get new clients and clinicians in there. To add a new clinician or invite someone to join the account, it's very simple. Again, you go to the Clinicians button at the top, and there's two ways you could do it. One is to just click the Add Clinician button, and you're just going to put in some real basic information about the person you're wanting to invite. So you put in their first name, last name, their email address. And then you're going to choose a role. Is this someone who, is going to be doing testing, assigning assessments, running reports? Or is this just an office, research type of assistant role where you want them to have much more limited access to the platform? So you choose that, and then you can customize what they'll have access to based on these roles here. So, ability to assign assessments, access the pending and completed section. Are they able to get into the reports section to rerun existing reports? And then do they have access to clients? You have three options here. They can have no access to clients, which very much limits anything they can do in the platform. They can have access to their own clients only, which is probably what you want to do most of the time. Or you can actually give them access to all clients on the account. And I would typically only do that if there's, someone who, really should have access to everybody's data, otherwise just leave it as own. And when you click the add button, that is going to send an email to that person, inviting them to join the account. And then if they don't already have a password, it's going to ask them to set a password. And then from that point forward, they'll be an active clinician on your account. The other way that you can invite clinicians is through an import function. So if you just have a couple clinicians to add, using the Add Clinician button is probably going to be the fastest way. However, if you have a larger number of clinicians that you need to add, you can come in here and click on the Import Clinicians button. And then if you click on the little question mark down here under Clinician Import Field Mapping, we've provided the exact formatting of the data that's needed to do an import, and we also provide you with a sample CSV file that you can download. And then with that sample file, all you have to do is, open Excel and open the file in Excel, and then just make changes to the first name, last name, and email address that you want to invite. It is limited to a total of 20 clinicians per import. So if you have, a larger number than that, you would just want to break it up into separate files with no more than 20 at a time. One thing I do want to note, when you use this import function, all of the clinicians are going to be invited at the clinician/psychologist level. So they're going to have sort of the default permissions for that. You can always go back into the clinicians tab and change that later if you needed to make changes for someone. But this is all you have to do: create the file, import it. When you click this read file button, it's actually going to go through and look at the data that's in the file and tell you if there's any issues, if there's anything that's, out of line. So if there's, if it's asking for email address and it's not in any valid email format, it's going to tell you that. Otherwise, you would just go ahead and click import, and it will send an invitation to each of those folks to join the account. All right, so that is clinicians. Let's talk about how to add clients. There's a couple places you can do that. The simplest is probably from the home screen and just clicking on the Add New Client button and just put in their client ID, first name, and last name. But those are the only three fields that are required. However, if you're doing self-assessments, I would highly recommend putting in the email address, although I think most of you are probably working with teachers and parents. So if you're creating a student file and you're not going to ask them to rate themselves, you can just leave the email address blank. You don't have to put in a birth date or age, but if you put something in the birth date, it will go ahead and calculate the age for you. And then if you wanted to sort them to a group, you can do that here when you're creating them. As a reminder, groups in Power Connect are essentially folders, so just a way for you to organize your data, organize your client roster in whatever way makes sense for you. So you could do that in, grade levels, you could do that in schools that you see them at, whatever makes sense to you, or you can just leave it blank. It's really just another way to sort of tag that client as being part of a group. And then just click on Add Client, or you can hit the Add an Assess button if you're actually ready to assign an assessment to that person right in this instance. Now, that is how to do that one at a time, but just like the import clinicians function, we do have the ability to do an import of a larger number of of clients. If you wanted to do that, you'll click on the Account Management button at the top, and then click on the Import Clients tab. And this works basically exactly like the Import Clinicians function. So again, we've provided the format and the fields that are either required or optional. It is worth noting this one is a max of 100 clients per import. And again, we've provided a sample file. So you can download the sample file and then Excel, just make the changes and add in the data that you want. And then just do the same thing that you would here. So you would select the file. The only thing you do differently here is select which clinician you want these clients to be uploaded to. So if you're going to give them to yourself, you'd select it here, choose the file, read it, and then go through it and do the import. And then once you've done that, they'll be available directly from your client roster, or when you go to the assess screen to assign an assessment, they'll be listed there.